This is Story Recapped. Today, I'm going to show a drama, horror, mystery, science fiction and thriller film called Flatliners. It is a remake and standalone sequel of the 1999 film of the same name. Spoilers ahead. Watch out, and take care. The afterlife is a debatable topic among believers and non-believers. Several people who have had near-death experiences claim to still have consciousness while they were temporarily dead. Experts say that chemical reactions in the brain cause it, but some look at it in a spiritual sense. For the film, science meets spirituality as a group of students in a university's medical school purposefully kill themselves to experience and study what is beyond. However, they may or may not have overlooked its consequences. Courtney Holmes happily drives with her sister, Tessa. As one of their bonding moments, she gets momentarily distracted with her phone, causing her to pay less attention with driving. Tessa screams, and before Courtney can act quickly, their car crashes near a bridge and onto the river. Tessa sadly dies from the crash, but Courtney survives and studies medicine. After 9 years, Courtney interns at Trinity Emmanuel Medical Center. She examines a patient named Lauren, who had just suffered a seizure. Out of curiosity, Courtney asks Lauren if she remembers anything while unconscious and before the emergency team brought her back to life. Instead of sharing how she felt, Lauren asks Courtney if she had lost a loved one, leaving the latter dumbfounded. In another section of the hospital, her colleagues, Marlo and Ray, argue about a patient who had just entered the emergency room. Their misunderstanding prevents them from acting quickly about the situation, and the doctor sends them out of the room. Later that night, Courtney goes to the library to research facts about the afterlife. Sophia, another student, is crying because she is burdened by her work and the pressure she receives from her mother. Courtney tries to cheer her up and spends time with her outside. The following day, the students attend a lecture with Dr. Barry Wolfson, who gets frustrated with their performance. They receive a sermon about how they should excel for them to become better doctors. There is extreme pressure for students in the medical field because of their responsibilities in the future. To Courtney and her colleagues, Dr. Wolfson is feared and looked up to because of his credentials. It is only right for him to require answers from them in a short period to equip them for their endeavors. Jamie is another student known as a trust fund kid and does not take his education seriously. Courtney approaches him during lunch to invite him to join her in the basement later that night. He is taken aback by her invitation, but accepts it anyway. To his surprise, Jamie arrives at the basement and finds Sophia there as well. He misinterpreted the invitation for something else, but Courtney explains why she needs them. She unravels a machine and connects it to her laptop for post-mortem scans. Moreover, she reveals that she wants to study the brain of someone with a near-death experience. Courtney wants to experiment with what happens to people when they die, so she requests them to use a defibrillator. It will stop her heart for 60 seconds and give them time to record her brain activity while she is temporarily dead. Sophia is hesitant to participate in it, but Jamie is more than thrilled. Courtney assures both of them that they will be free of any responsibility if anything happens, because she is signed a release. Not long after, they begin the procedure, and Courtney becomes unconscious after an injection. As soon as she is inside the scanner, Jamie stops her heart, and she is pronounced dead. Courtney experiences an out-of-body incident where she finds herself seeing the cityscape. As the timer reaches 60 seconds, Jamie and Sophia quickly revive her, but she remains unresponsive. In context, Sophia is a student who struggles in medical school and is only pressured by her mother. On the other hand, Jamie is a laid-back student because of his wealth. Jamie agreed to do so because of the adrenaline rush, but Sophia is only forced to participate. Sophia panics and beeps Ray to come and help them, and he does. Ray arrives and finds Jamie and Sophia struggling to revive Courtney, who has been dead for several minutes already. On the other hand, Courtney arrives on top of a building in an astronomical way, which provides her joy and comfort. Her vision is interrupted when the team brings her back to life. After the commotion, Marla finds out about their experiment, and they interview Courtney about the experience. She describes it as untethering and calming, unlike what she expected. They bring out the scans and find Courtney's brain activity during her death, which amazes them. Bolts of light seem to appear in her brain, which is still inconclusive as to what it is. The following day, Courtney appears to be different and more active. During their lecture with Dr. Wolfson, she excels and answers questions that none of the students could have guessed. After class, she even plays a piano piece perfectly, despite not having played in over a decade. According to her colleagues, her flatlining has strengthened her brain as if it was rewired. Although the effects seem positive, Courtney experiences a paranormal encounter that night. She opens her shower curtain, but finds it closed as she turns back. Initially, she ignores it and goes about her night, but she checks it again and finds someone in the tub, which frightens her. After getting back on her feet, Courtney realizes that it was just a vision. At that moment, Courtney begins to theorize that flatlining has negative consequences. Its underlying effects may open her up to a portal of death, but there is no turning back. No amount of apology and self-reflection would bring her sister back to life. All she could do was regret her carelessness and bask in the guilt over her sister's loss. The next one who wishes to flatline is Jamie. While dead, he envisions himself riding a motorcycle through the city with his ex, Alicia. The team revives Jamie, and suddenly, his visions turn dim. Alicia fades into dust as they stop in an empty town, and moments later, he is back to life. The crew throws a celebration after Jamie's return, and Courtney and Jamie kiss. After returning to life, Courtney asks Jamie if he felt or saw anything weird, but he denies it. The next day, Jamie saves a patient's life in the hospital by administering a medication that the other doctors had overlooked. After his colleagues congratulate him, he begins to have visions of Alicia, looking menacingly at him. At night, they resume the flatlining activity, and it's Marlowe's turn. Unlike the others, Marlowe requests to be dead for 3 minutes. As she slowly becomes unconscious, she gets a vision of herself swimming and sees the word murderer written at the bottom of the pool. Moments later, she becomes surrounded by jellyfish and begins to panic. The team experiences difficulty in reviving her, making Ray concerned. Marlowe's visions become more dark and vivid, as if something haunts her from the past. After several tries, they successfully bring Marlowe back to life. They all go to the rooftop and watch the city lights when Sophia arrives and apologizes for being late. Out of nowhere, she asks the team to flatline her as well. Before they proceed, Marlowe warns Sophia not to stay too long, but she does not disclose why. Marlowe already knows something that they don't. The scene shows how their smart facades hide great secrets and insecurities from the past. For Marlowe, her career is her life, and if something is holding her back, it might affect her status and well-being. She decides to keep it on the low and does not share anything that would view her as a bad person. During her flatline, Sophia sees her in her old classroom, humiliating her classmate, Irina, by posting explicit images of her in front of the entire class. When security guards come after them after bringing Sophia back, the group rushes out, but they manage to get out of the parking lot. They drive out of the hospital, and Marlowe seems more reckless than she used to be. The team spends the night raving and having fun after their eventful time in the basement. While dancing, Courtney gets a glimpse of Tessa walking among the crowd, so she follows her. All of a sudden, the place switches into a dreamlike realm where Courtney sees their crashed car. She takes a peek inside the car, and to her horror, she sees her little sister submerged in water. Courtney immediately backs off and snaps out of her vision. Meanwhile, Sophia and Jamie get intimate with each other, which makes her mother disappointed. However, Sophia becomes carefree and even talks back to her mother, who she feared all her life. Also, on the way home, Ray and Marlowe spend time together at the latter's place. There, Marlowe shares something very personal that she has been holding back for some time. She tells him about a patient who was stung in the face by a jellyfish and died because she gave him the incorrect medication. Marlowe becomes more scared because he saw the guy during her flatline and expresses her worries to Ray. He comforts Marlowe and reminds her that she too is a good person, and both of them become intimate with each other. Throughout the film, the tension between Marlowe and Ray is high because of their competitiveness. They saw each other as rivals, especially in their profession. One would always negate the other's idea just to prove their superiority. The scene shows how Marlowe could let her guard down to someone she did not expect to care for her at all. Ray also finds an opportunity to admit that he sees her as a caring person, making him attracted. Still disturbed about Tessa, Courtney recalls the day of the accident and how she managed to get out of the car as it sank to the river. Someone rescued her from the water, but Tessa was a hopeless case. After an eventful night, Jamie goes to his boat and sees a woman crying in his bed. After checking it out one more time, she's gone. Not long after, he hears the sounds of a crying baby, so he checks the boat's compartment and finds something moving under a cloth. Jamie lifts it, but he finds nothing. Eerily enough, a ghostly figure stands behind him without him noticing. Jamie receives a call from Courtney, who is freaked out after seeing her sister, and asks him to come over. At her apartment, Courtney hears clanking noises from corners of her place even though she is alone. Courtney explains in a video that she did not conduct the experiment for the sake of research, but to communicate with her younger sister. She becomes frightened as she believes she hears noises and even claims that she is going crazy. From the hallway, she notices someone in the living room and is surprised to see the ghost of Tessa on the table. Tessa's ghostly figure chases her across the house, so Courtney runs to the fire escape. However, Tessa blocks her way and pushes Courtney to her death. The following day, Dr. Wolfson breaks the tragic news to Courtney's colleagues. They are all in shock about what happened and are utterly speechless. Wolfson wants to know if they are aware of anything that was wrong with her, but they refuse to say anything, fearful of being expelled for their experiment. The gravity of their experiment is a big threat to their careers and the hospital's reputation. What they did could be considered pseudoscience, which poses their morals as medical practitioners. One wrong move could pose a great impact on their lives and reputations. Later that day, Marlo visits the morgue to get Courtney's phone. She sadly looks at her as she unlocks the drawer containing her body. Marlo is again haunted by the word murderer just before she receives a phone call from Courtney. To make things worse, the lights turn off in the morgue, and the ghost of her former patient appears. Meanwhile, Jamie repeatedly hears baby noises, which frustrates him even more. When it stops, he sees another vision of Alicia, so he runs out of the boat. Jamie falls in the water, and when he gets out, the vision of Alicia stabs his hand. The team watches Courtney's footage, and they hear her screaming moments before she dies. They think that Courtney was haunted by her little sister, and start sharing about their faults in the past. Jamie explains about the time he abandoned his ex-girlfriend Alicia when she became pregnant because he was afraid. They are confused about how a living person could haunt Jamie, but they fail to arrive at a conclusion. Sophia admits that she was envious of Irina's better GPA and decided to ruin her life by hacking her computer and sending around the images. Ray stops their discussion and says that there might be a scientific explanation behind everything that's happening. At the hospital, Sophia is disturbed by messages that taunt her for being intimate with Jamie. She runs to the elevator alone, and it stops at the lowermost level. As the doors open, Sophia finds herself in her old high school classroom and sees a glimpse of Irina. She shrieks in fear and exits the elevator, clearly disturbed by what she saw. The group is being haunted by their faults in the past. Flatlining stimulated and awakened their guilty conscience, which caused them to recall bad memories. Moreover, these memories are the ones that inflicted harm to someone they know. In a way, karma is getting the best of them. Jamie and Sophia decide to make amends with those that they had wronged in the past. Sophia locates Irina and confesses her wrongdoing and apologizes to her. Irina is apprehensive at first, but she eventually forgives Sophia. Jamie later travels to find Alicia and, for the first time, meets their son. He attempts to make amends, but she refuses to listen and give him a chance. The following day, Marlo is on the way to the hospital, but her patient's ghost suffocates her with a bag while driving. She struggles to keep her eyes on the road and crashes her car into a nearby restaurant. After the collision, Marlo drives away in fear. Her friends try to contact her, but Marlo does not respond to their calls and texts. Ray realizes where she is when he spots her car in the hospital parking garage. The three race down the basement, only to discover that Marlo has already flatlined. While unconscious, Marlo finds her patient in an abandoned room and apologizes, but he attacks her instead. Marlo's friends attempt to resuscitate her, but she remains unconscious. Marlo is swung across the room and drowned by her patient, which renders her unconscious. Desperate, Ray takes a needle to her heart and injects adrenaline into it, which helps Marlo in the dreamlike realm. However, a strong force pulls her towards a big smoke, and she becomes helpless. When Marlo sees Courtney telling her she needs to forgive herself, she begins to come back to life. Since the incident of giving the wrong medication to her patient, Marlo has been harsh on herself. She works extra hard and trains herself just to leave no energy for her to think about what happened. Marlo realizes that she cannot ask forgiveness from a dead person like Courtney tried to do. Failing to forgive herself was the cause of her demise, so she helps Marlo to do so. Jamie decides to stay in the area for his residency, to be near his son and Alicia, which gave new meaning to his life. Realizing her mistake, Marlo talks to the dean and admits her mistake, putting her on probation. They give up on flatlining for good and toss the evidence and traces that they have into the ocean. The group heads to a restaurant where they hear the music that Courtney used to play. They reminisce about memories together before raising a glass in her honor. Before the experiment begins, ethical concerns, moral objections, and legal issues are briefly discussed. Their hunger to thrive as doctors came out as desperation, which made them resort to flatlining. They thought of it as a ladder to greatness, but it proved wrong. As the movie comes to an end, the characters realize that there are things far beyond themselves. It greatly impacted their beliefs, which only fueled them to become more cautious and better.
Subscribe to watch more videos like this. Turn on notifications. And leave a like, it really helps the channel out. Thank you for watching.